Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to the personality edition of 5-Minute Psych. In this 5-minute segment, we'll explore measuring personality by first discussing personality inventories, the main tool that personality researchers use to assess personality. Then we'll examine two different methods used to develop items on personality inventories, and we'll consider specific personality tests as an example of each. Finally, we'll look at a different type of personality test, projective tests, and we'll end by looking at a few examples of projective tests. Personality inventories are simply the questionnaires that researchers use to measure personality. As you can imagine, using a questionnaire to assess personality has a few advantages. First, it's a great way to measure something that's on the inside of another person, like personality. And second, it allows researchers to collect a lot of data relatively quickly. However, researchers have to worry about participant bias, or the possibility that participants aren't telling the truth. This could happen if the participant is overly concerned about how their answers are coming across. And if this happens, then the test results won't be accurate. Researchers deal with this by including some items that specifically test for how likely someone is to lie or repeatedly present themselves in a socially desirable way. And then any participant who scores high on these lie items, their data would be discarded, since it wouldn't be accurate. So how do researchers decide which questions to ask on a personality inventory? Well, they use two different methods to develop their questions, the rational and empirical approach. With the rational approach, the questions are obvious and it's completely transparent as to what's being asked. If the test is measuring shyness, the questions will be directly related to shyness. Things like, I go out with my friends at least 4 times a week, or I never put my hand up in class. A popular personality test developed through the rational approach is the NEO-PI, which evaluates 3 of the 5 factors of the 5-factor model: neuroticism, extroversion, and openness. With the empirical approach to developing a personality inventory, questions on the test are chosen for statistical reasons only, without looking at what the questions themselves ask. An example of a test developed using the empirical method is the MMPI. It was originally designed to diagnose psychiatric patients, and questions on the test were chosen strictly because psychiatric patients answered those questions differently than non-psychiatric patients. That's it. So the questions don't seem relevant to the trait at all, and they could even seem random. Things like, I always have pepperoni on my pizza, or I never read golf magazines. But then it became apparent that the test is also useful for revealing key aspects of personality in everyone, not just psychiatric patients, and it became more widely used. At least you wouldn't have to worry about participant bias, since it isn't obvious what's being measured. If you didn't want to use a questionnaire to measure personality, there's another type of test, and these are projective tests, where the participant is shown an ambiguous stimulus and is then asked to talk about the stimulus. One example of this is the Rorschach ink blot test, where the stimulus is an ink blot and the participant has to say what it looks like. Obviously, there's no right answer here, and the participants' answers are scored for what kind of object is reported. Is it a bunny rabbit or a dragon? The features that are attended to and the emotional tone in the answer. If it is a dragon, is it having tea with scrumpets or burning bunnies? There's also the thematic apperception test, or the TAT. The stimulus used here is at least recognizable. It's usually a person or two, and the participant is asked to talk about what's happening in the scene, how the characters are feeling, and what they're thinking. Again, there's no right answer, and the researcher is looking for recurring themes across many pictures. Like, does the person keep talking about feeling abandoned or concerned about failure? These kinds of themes reveal key aspects of the participant's personality. The issue with these kinds of personality tests is that the participant's score or diagnosed personality would be based entirely on the researcher's interpretation of their answers. And therein lies the problem. There's no consistency across researchers for how to analyze the answers. And different researchers will come up with different personalities for the same participant's answers. Nonetheless, some therapists swear by projective tests to reveal potential issues that their client has, as these could come out in the recurring themes of their answers. Well, we just looked at how to measure personality, and we focused on personality inventories, including 2 methods for developing them, and then we ended by looking at projective tests. Now, aren't you glad you had 5 minutes?